Testing, testing, testing. We are live. Day 447. Today we're looking at three-bedroom homes that are coming onto the market. And this is 624 Barclays Lane, Birmingham, Alabama, 35206. This is listed for $199,000. And the reason this caught my eye is I'm filtered on properties that are three-bedroom plus, but I was looking for properties that have just come on the market for 3 days. And this property just came on the market 50 minutes ago. Now, when I looked at this property, you can see that in general, this living room's pretty good. This kitchen is rent ready. I mean, it's not like the fanciest kitchen, but it will do. Could you use some love on this panel wall? Maybe you can repaint it. Sure, absolutely. But for the most part, the bathrooms look okay and the kitchen looks okay. Now here, what is that? There is a basement that would not count as an egress, to my opinion. That window looks like it's in terrible shape, to be honest with you. So you got to be a little bit wary about it because, especially if you thought about, hey, this is a three-bedroom home and I can turn this into a fourth bedroom. Well, that's not going to be the case because if you look at this basement, usually for it to be a bedroom, you need a closet, obviously. But you also need 2 points of egress. And this window up here is going to be way too high and going to be out of reach for folks. So you cannot count that as a second egress. So you cannot count that as an additional bedroom. Now, there's a little garage there in the back, and this shower stall probably needs to get replaced. But for the most part, this property, let's analyze this property as a three-bedroom rental, okay? And I'm gonna start writing down some of the details for this property right here onto my comparable sales list because I am tracking all the properties that are coming onto the market within the last couple of days. And this property, being a three-bedroom property, I want to make sure I'm keeping a close pulse on homes that are this size, 2,056 square feet. This property was built in 1956. This property is listed for $199,000. This is listed for 1220. 0.26 acres. 0.26 acres. Yes, there's a garage. Yes, there's a basement. No HOA. So dollar per square foot perspective, this property is worth $97 square foot. And this property is in one subdivision. Closest to South Roebuck. South Roebuck. Okay. Average kitchen and bathrooms. One bathroom. The shower stall needs to be renovated. Floors and painting looks good. Okay, so that's my notes for how to condition the home looks really fast. And the reason I want to keep that is because now I understand if I ever want to pursue the BRRRR strategy, which stands for buy, rehab, rent, refines, and repeat, that allows me to quickly figure out what my ARV, my after repair value is. Because here's how the BRRRR strategy works, right? Let's say you buy a property for $20,000 and you renovate the property for $50,000, but now you're able to make the property worth $100,000. Now you just create $30,000 equity. But more importantly, now you're able to go get a loan for 70% of that home's value. And all of a sudden, now you take back out the $70,000 that you originally invested in the form of loan proceeds. Using those loan proceeds, you can rinse and repeat the same strategy using the same $70,000 to go buy another fixer. That is much more scalable than the other alternative, which is typically people save up for 20% down and then they work on saving up money for 20% down another property. And that's why it's such a slow process, right? So those are the reasons why the BRRRR strategy is so popular. But it's very dependent on getting your ARV correct. And that's why it's so important for you to understand what's happening with the properties in the market that are coming on the market now, because as interest rates fluctuate, and you can see that interest rates have gone up in the last couple of weeks and months. And the 30-year mortgage interest rates are really driven by the 10-year yield, which is right here, 4.5, and the spread between the 10-year yield and the 30-year mortgage rates. Typically, you see that the spread is probably between 1.5 to 2% historically, but in the past, we've seen as high as 3%. So as that spread narrows, your interest would come down. But as your interest go back up again on a 10-year yield, then it equals out and brings it back up the other way, right? So these are all the factors that you really want to keep in place to understand what's going on. Okay. Now, next step here. What are we going to do? So, well, let's analyze this property, assuming we're just going to buy this property on the market for a three-bedroom home. And the first thing you want to do is, if you were to look at any market, I would go Google HUD FMR. FMR stands for fair market rents. When you come here, you can scroll down to access small area FMRs, and then you will click on FY 2025 small area FMRs. Click on the state and the county it's in. This is in Jefferson County. And now you're able to see by bedroom count and by zip code what your maximum rent is. This is 35206. So you go to 35206, you can see that the rent ceiling here for a three-bedroom is 1,500. Okay, 1,500. Let's note this down. 1,500, and the four-bed is 1,700. Great. Now keep in mind that this 1,500 is your rent ceiling, not the rent that you can charge right away. And that's one of the biggest mistakes that people make all the time. And that's because if you go look at the market rent and you go to affordablehousing.com, you go to the owner section, go to the market rent estimator, plug in the address, plug in the bedroom count, you can see that the average rent for three-bedroom homes in 25 units within a 1.23 mile radius is 1,054, 1054, to 1.23 mile radius. Even though the county is 1,520, the city is 1,300, and the zip is 1,076, you can only charge what's the going rate in the market because of the rent reasonableness test. And you might be wondering, what's the rent reasonableness test? Okay, so let me pull up the Housing Choice Voucher Program Guidebook. Housing Choice Vouchers was previously known as Section 8, but now they call it Housing Choice Voucher to get away from all the negative connotation associated with Section 8. All right, so in Section 2.2, it says that in conducting rent reasonableness, the PHA, or the Public Housing Authority, must determine whether the rent to the owner is a reasonable rent in comparison to rent for other comparable unassisted units. So this means that you cannot charge more rent simply because they're a voucher holder, right? For obvious reasons. So a lot of people make the mistake of like, oh, $1,500, that's how much I'm gonna get for rent. And you would have been overestimating your rent by $450 because your average rent here is only $1,050 for a three-bedroom. So you gotta go $1,050, right? Then let's plug in our other expenses. Property tax is 27. That seems really low. I'm gonna do 27 times 2 at the very minimum. That seems really low, to be honest with you. And then my insurance number is 154, so I'm going to do 154 times 1.2, and that's 184.80, okay? Now, then I got 10% set aside for my rents every single month. Oh, to back up, I'm adding 20% premium to the insurance number because I'm assuming the insurance number on the Redfin page is an estimate for the primary residence insurance policy. Typically, insurance policies will view you as a higher risk asset. So, with it being a higher risk asset, what's going to happen there is you're going to realize that investment properties, they're going to charge more premium for it. That's why adding a 20% premium by multiplying by 1.2. Then I'm setting aside 10% for maintenance every single month. I mean, we found out that your roof would probably typically last 10, 15, 20 years. Your property management expenses is probably around 10%. And then your vacancy is about 5%, right? Because someone always moves out. Now, if you do a 25% down here in F19, your down payment is going to be equals to your F19, which is your down payment percentage, times your asking price. And our asking price here is 199, right? 199. Yep, correct. And my rehab estimate on this property is going to be equals to, I'm setting aside $15 for the roof, $500 for some landscaping in row 46. I'm assuming I don't need to do much painting. I'll probably just say maybe 250 square foot of touch-up paint at $3 a square foot. Don't need to do any flooring. The flooring looks great. I assume I need to do for the bathroom, I need a new shower stall and a bathroom bar kit. Great. And I got 2 toilets that I'm going to replace with high pressure flush toilets. That's pretty much all I need. So that's about a $5,200 rehab on this property. Okay, let me just delete that plus 20,000 because that's for yesterday's scenario. And so if I do a $50,000 down payment, assuming 25% down, my finance amount is going to equal to my B4, my asking price, minus my down payment percentage in E19. So I'll be financing 150 grand at, let's just call it 7.5% right now for debt service calculation loan. If you use that and you rent this property out for $1,050, you'll be negative cash flow $495 a month. That's a losing deal, negative 9.9. That's assuming you bought this property for $199,000 with a $5,200 rehab, 25% down, 7.5% interest rate. So this property is not a deal, right? Again, it's not investment advice. I'm not still selling any investments on this call. But let's say your target return was 10%. I'm not saying 10% is a magical number, but let's say your price is 80 grand or 70 grand. Watch what happens to this number, right? 65. So it's 68,000, right? Assuming everything else stays constant in this scenario, that will get you closer to that 10% return that you're looking for. 68 grand. Now, does that mean someone's going to accept your offer for 68 grand? Maybe, probably not. But at least now you know how to adjust the leverage, because for every property, there should be a set of terms or numbers that would make this a deal, quote unquote. Okay. That's how you go about analyzing a spreadsheet, analyzing a 3-bedroom home, right? The most important mistake is to avoid looking at the HUD FMR and saying that's around what I get. They're going to look at the market comps, and that's what the brunt you're going to get, not what the ceiling is. And even if you get the ceiling, this number typically includes utilities. So if you don't provide utilities, you got to back out from anyway. So don't be that person, because if you underwrote this with 1,500, you go from losing. If I go back to original numbers, you go back to losing negative 157 instead of negative 495. Huge difference, right? Big swing. You're losing an extra $350 a month roughly. So don't be that person. Make sure you underwrite the deals using the reasonable rent numbers, excuse me, and do it correctly. All right. So my hope is this: you guys want to copy the spreadsheet? Go to affordablehousing.io, not .com. Go to the Get Deal Analysis tool. Plug in your name, your email, your phone number. That's as fast as for you to get a copy of the spreadsheet. I didn't make it from scratch. I got it from a few other folks. I modified, I tweaked it so that I can get more practice around analyzing these deals. And my hope is that you put it on your own YouTube channel. Because someone at some point is going to ask you, hey, why is this a deal? And at that point in time, you can say, well, I know that this is a deal because I've been looking at properties for the past 447 days. And they're all not deals. All right. Have an amazing day, everybody. Have an amazing Friday. I'll see you all tomorrow for day 448.